So welcome to How to Set Boundaries Like a Queen, everyone. There's just a few ladies on the call live. Most of you are listening to this on recording, and I'm really excited that you're here either way, live or listening to the recording. I'm so excited to share this information with you. I have been wanting to do a call like this for, I don't even know, I think about a year now, and it hasn't been the right time. So I finally realized it was a good time, and I'm going to share with you in a minute why. But I just want to welcome you and honor you for showing up for yourself. If you already know this information, if you feel like maybe you could use a refresher on boundaries, if you feel like you need to learn a lot about boundaries, this is great for you because this is just going to help you in so many areas. And we're going to cover a lot of content today. So it might run a little over an hour if you have that time. And if not, again, you'll have the recording. So let me share quickly how the call is going to run. I'm going to start off by sharing my story, why I'm here, why you should listen to me, why I'm an expert at boundaries, and why I'm so passionate about boundaries. And I'm going to share how you know if you need boundaries, first and foremost, and the precursor to boundaries, what you actually have to have before you can set the boundaries. I'm going to introduce you to the queen archetype, which I know you're excited about. I'm excited. And I'm going to show you, of course, how to set boundaries like a queen. I'm going to end too with some examples, some general examples and some real life examples that I've spoken to a couple women about lately. And then I'm going to share a way for you all to step into this with inspiring support, something that you probably haven't had. And finally, we're going to end, if someone here live wants to be coached by me, laser coached, regarding boundaries or anything that we do discuss today, that will be the opportunity at the end to have that coaching time. And then, of course, we'll have questions if there are any for many of the ladies that are on live. So just right now, that I would say just save any questions until the end, so write them down if they pop up for you, and ask it at the end, and we'll have time then to go over it. Okay, so beautiful. So let's start. I'm going to share my screen with you. So I'm going to go off video right now, and I'm going to come back on later, but you'll still hear me. So one moment. All right, so you should be able to see the slide here. So how to set boundaries like a queen? Why am I here to share this information with you? Well, my story is very simple. I spent most of my life as a people pleaser and an overgiver. And I really let insecurity rule my life over everything because I just didn't know myself. I wasn't secure in who I was. I didn't think that it was safe. I was taught to put others first, and I was taught that that was a superpower. Being that overgiver and being that people pleaser was a good thing. And then I wondered, why I always felt unhappy and frustrated and didn't feel that confidence and that belief in myself like I saw some other women feeling and being. So I searched a lot for most of my life outside of myself. I think you can resonate with this because I'm finding most women feel this way on some level. So specifically, there was an area and time of my life, I think it was about 2008, when I felt like it was an all-time low. It was like a rock bottom. When everything was out of whack, I hated everything about my life. And it was just a time when it was just so depressing, everything. It was just rock bottom. That's all I can explain it. My marriage was on the rocks. We're on the verge of divorce. I had so many toxic relationships, including the one with myself. I just quit my job from the corporate industry, so it was good to be out of corporate, but I was broke. I was unhappy in that way. And then to top it all off, I got in a near fatal car accident and flipped my car over on the freeway. So I'm lucky to be alive. And that was a little bit of a turning point for me because I realized, okay, I'm probably meant to be here for a reason. I'm probably meant to do something bigger than I have been, right? And And so that's when I began my search for more meaning and my purpose in life, and basically my search for happiness. I was desperate at that time. So, of course, the universe shows up when we show up, and through some efforts, I randomly found feng shui through a random newsletter that I got in my email one day. And the class that was offered, that I saw advertised, was called You Can Have It All. So naturally, I was all in. And so I ended up started training with this master feng shui practitioner in Los Angeles, and eventually studied with him for over a year before he certified me. And during that time, I realized that organizing was a part of feng shui, and that was also something I'm really good at. So I ended up starting my own organizing business. This was about 5 years ago in the midst of this training. So I found a little bit of my identity, my purpose. I got to, create a business, start making money. And of course, feng shui turned my life around as well. Things started making more sense, adding more meaning to my everyday life, my home, my actions, and my direction in life. And through that time as an organizer and a feng shui consultant, those first couple of years, they were great. However, I still wanted to go deeper. I've always been a spiritual person, always been the person that people come to talk about their problems, and I want to talk about them with them. So I realized I wanted to go deeper under the organizing, under the clutter, to really understand why people have these issues. And I wanted to become a coach. So that's when I dove into an exclusive 12-month life coach training program for women, which was based on self-care and the feminine business model. So it was so different than anything that I ever expected. That feminine business model was I couldn't even comprehend that at that time. I was pushing and doing and burning myself out. That's what I was used to. And I thought that was success. So I learned a lot there. It was a transformative experience. Ended up continuing on with that same mentor in a spiritual priestess mastermind. So it had been 2 straight years working with this mentor. And all the while, I was also going on transformative in-person destination retreats. I went through a Queen initiation program myself with another mentor. So the last 3 years of my life have been incredible. And what I realized was missing all of this time, what was making me feel insecure and not confident and frustrated, and what was holding me back from my power, from me protecting myself so that I can really become myself, was boundaries. So I got a taste of them. And then over these past 4 years, I got to practice them. I got to learn how to utilize them and fine tune them for me. And especially, in real time, but also from my sisters that I was working and being with. So it's been an amazing ride. And so I'm going to share how boundaries have helped me personally, because that's why I'm here. That's why I'm so excited to share this, and I think it's going to make a huge impact for you. So boundaries specifically helped me, like I said, learn how to become confident in myself. They saved me from so much inner turmoil that I mentioned. They saved me from all the confusion that I had and all the toxic relationships. I was wondering why I was having so much toxic relationships, but that's why. And they also helped me stay in my highest potential and in my greatness and what I call my sovereignty. And they also helped me have better relationships with respect, and relationships with honesty and more love, instead of that one-sided relationships that I'm sure you all can relate to on some level. And most of all, boundaries have given me a better sense of self. And with boundaries, I have found success because I'm able to now focus without distractions of what are others going to think. I've got to think of them first. I've got to put others first. I'm able to focus on myself. So it's really been a lifesaver, and it's also been an eye-opener to discover that boundaries have had such an impact on me. So when I was thinking first about making this call, I wanted to gain a little more experience even in this field. And so interestingly enough, the sisterhood that I'm leading right now that just started earlier this year in spring, we are focusing this month on the queen archetype, which is my favorite archetype to work with. And when in one of the weeks we were studying boundaries. And so I wrote some content and it was amazing. And I was inspired then to finally create this call, make it a reality for people. So of course, when I decided this, all of these boundaries came up for me, like personally. So things that I needed to work on with myself or with my relationships. And I even saw it with my clients and just seeing how I can deepen it into this even further, which is what I wanted. But this is just how the process works. And so I'm mentioning this because I'm guessing this is what's happening with you as well. When you joined this call, heard about this call, heard about this training, did boundaries start to pop up a little more than usual for you? Did you start to become a little bit more aware of how they may be missing or how you may have more questions about them specifically? I'm guessing it's the case, at least on a small level. So again, that's how the process works. And we're going to touch on ways that you can utilize these specific tools to create boundaries and just practice your way so that you can feel more happier and more confident and more authentic. Yeah, that's it. I think that's funny, right? So before we get into the nitty-gritty and the bulk of this training, I want to share with you the precursor that I mentioned to boundaries. And so boundaries, they do protect us. I feel like that's what they're there for. They're there to protect what we hold most sacred, what we value most. But we can't protect what we don't know and what we don't honor and love, right? Because if we don't know and love something so much, why would we want to protect it? So the precursor to boundaries is having high self-worth. And this is something I only realized in the past couple of years. So even while I was working with boundaries, myself and with my clients, I didn't even realize that fact until recently. So again, you have to know and value yourself so much so that you want to protect yourself and who you are and your reputation and your body and your essence and your purpose. Because when you value yourself so much like that much, setting boundaries is easy. It's effortless. You just have to fine tune it a little. And we're going to go into that. But this is really the big piece that I wanted to share first, because a lot of the time I see people trying to set boundaries, and especially with the clients that I work with in my coaching practice, they're struggling, but it's the boundaries again is a little bit ahead of the game. So they need to start with loving themselves more and valuing themselves more. And that's when things start to become in flow, right? So boundaries, if it's an issue for you, it's usually a call to increase your self-worth. And this, again, is what I find is missing a lot of the time with women. Because, again, we're trained by society to think others are more important than us, when it's just not the case. So let this set in for you. Having high self-worth, is this something that you have right now, do you think? Is it something you're looking for? Is it something that you need support around? Is it something that you're familiar with even? Have you had experience where you felt really valued from yourself? Do you feel like this is true? Now ask yourself these questions and just drop into this truth, whatever it is, and it's quite okay if the answer is no, that you're not familiar, that you don't feel like you have self-worth. You don't value yourself. Because again, it's quite common. I went through it. I think every woman goes through it at some point. And just know your path is perfect and you're in the process that's meant for you. And when you know this, you're going to have more awareness around it. So the increasing of your self-worth is going to happen eventually. And just keep believing in yourself and keep asking for support. So this is what we're keeping in mind before we set boundaries. Self-worth is crucial. Okay, so boundaries is something that indicates bounds or limits. That's just the physical, they're the definition of them. But I look at it as a form of protection and a form of integrity. I think you might agree. And I believe that we train people how to treat us. And before we can train people how to treat us, before we can protect ourselves, once again, we have to know ourselves and love ourselves and value ourselves so much. Because when we try to protect ourselves without knowing ourselves, that becomes walls, right? So we build up a wall. We're like, nope, no one's coming in. I'm not getting hurt again. And that blocks connection, vulnerability, and love. And boundaries are not walls. Walls do not serve us. Having no connection and no vulnerability and no love is not helpful for our being, for our growth, for our happiness. We need that. So continuing to have walls up just perpetuates the fear and unworthiness within ourselves. Boundaries, in my opinion, should be like the metaphor of the picket fence. So, and preferably with a gate, not a wall. So like a gate, a low fence with a gate so that you can invite them in, or you can leave if need be. You can still interact, and there's still some sort of boundary there for protection. So no boundaries pretty much means no happiness. And a big part of setting boundaries is simply remembering who we are and what we value, like I shared. This is going to come up a lot, by the way. So when we know what we are protecting and how to do that best, that's when everything becomes easy. So when we truly know and love ourselves, boundaries are so much easier, and we can articulate what we want and move through the whole process with grace instead of it being awkward, right? Is that something that you guys may have, that may have prevented you from setting boundaries? Maybe it's just a little awkward, you didn't know what to do, and you didn't feel right setting the boundary or saying certain things. That's how I felt, at least. So I'm pretty sure that was the case with you, or some of you at least. And boundaries are also not demands that we make out of superiority. Again, this is something that I thought it was. I thought boundaries were mean. And boundaries really allow room for vulnerability and connection. And so that's just as important as setting boundaries, right? So again, we're not going to be happy without that stuff. So we do have to allow that in. And it's not about going boundary crazy and putting up those walls so we don't get hurt. Finding the safety in the possibility that you might get hurt if you put yourself out there is part of life. You know, it's okay, and it's going to be fine, and you're going to get through it if you do get hurt, but it's going to be worth it. It's like that cliche of it's always better to have loved and lost than to have never loved at all. And that's so true. So that's where all the growth and learning is when you do allow people in, and you do allow vulnerability, and you do allow connection. And that's where all the heart-opening, fulfilling love is. And through that, you learn where you need to set boundaries. So boundaries, what they are, is what they are there to protect, like I said earlier, the most sacred parts of ourselves. So if we're using the queen example, the crown jewels, whatever those are of your makeup, the crown jewels of your makeup. And they're not to rigidly guard your heart, body, or time like the Queen's Castle guards do. Boundaries also don't demand or control others, which is something that I also thought. was what they are. They actually give others a choice and a chance to connect with us and learn from us and show up in their most powerful potential, right? It was a hard one for me to learn. So when we don't set boundaries and we don't define our boundaries, we're actually denying others the chance to show up in their best light. And I know how much you care about others, so just keep that in mind next time you don't set one. And when we do set them, we increase our quality of life. We enhance our relationships. We increase our self-worth. We increase our confidence. We feel more safe in our body and our being so that we can shine bigger and brighter, which is what we all really want at our core. And then when we don't set boundaries, if we end up denying ourselves in that way and don't have the courage to set them, then we simply allow ourselves to get taken advantage of. We're going to feel hurt. We're going to feel resentful. We're going to feel unloved. We're going to feel manipulated and triggered. And one thing that I realized recently as well is we're going to avoid ourselves by not setting boundaries. We're going to avoid our truth and our needs. We don't set boundaries, we avoid our needs. And let that set in as well. Yeah. So keep this in mind before you set those boundaries, okay? So I'm going to get into the bulk of the training in a moment, but first I want to tell you about the Queen, my favorite. So before I share the little blurb, well, actually, let me tell you about archetypes because you may not know what an archetype is. So an archetype is simply a persona that is within all of us. So there are archetypes like the lover or the warrior. And my favorite is just the Queen. So we use archetypes for a specific purpose, for a way to become the best version of ourselves. It's a way to use personal development in more of a playful way. In my opinion, it's more expansive and authentic. Because if we think about personal development and changing our habits and doing things that are challenging and hard for the first time, it doesn't seem so fun. So I'm all about fun and making things a little more me. So that's why I love to work with archetypes. And I've written a blurb about the Queen. But before I do that, I just want you to drop into what you think the Queen is right now. Just thinking about the Queen, just put her essence in your mind. Maybe even close your eyes. What do you think she embodies? What do you think she gives off in her energy, in her body language, in her words, in her actions? It's very important to always check in with yourself when you learn something new and see what you feel or what you believe first. What comes to you first? That's always more powerful. So just drop into that for a second. And actually, I want you to close your eyes. Close your eyes and drop into that, but also go ahead now and listen to what I think the Queen is from my perspective, from my experience working with her over the last 3 years. So the Queen is sovereign. She's grounded and gracious and devoted and worthy and discerning. She's courageous and dignified and loyal, magnetic, confident, and powerful in her being. She doesn't demand, control, or lay her wrath on people, but rather lives her life of duty with pleasure and moves gracefully in all her actions and in honor of the highest good of all. She is the authority of her own life and her queendom and a source of certainty for those around her. I love the Queen. So how did that sit with you? What do you feel like the Queen is offering you from being introduced to her today? What is she calling you to be? And how are the boundaries that you're looking to set related to some of these qualities? And which ones were most appealing to you? Beautiful. So yeah, I just want to let that sink in, because when I first heard about the Queen, it was life-changing, just the concept. And I hope it is for you too. All right, so let's get into the nitty-gritty here, babes. The first step in how to set boundaries like a queen is knowing what you need, identifying what boundaries you need. So as a gracious queen, remember, who has the discernment to know when to set boundaries and when to let others in, you can begin to clarify where you need boundaries by identifying where you have felt or feel taken advantage of now or in the past. So think about this as I ask you, where do you feel like you got fooled, manipulated, frustrated, resentful, hurt, crushed, defeated, or betrayed by someone else? In other words, where were you triggered by someone else seemingly doing something to you, quote unquote? That was just someone crossing a boundary of yours that you didn't set. And we usually don't know we need a boundary until someone crosses it. That's just how it works. So remember that next time this happens, because instead of blaming the other person, which is what I did. Oh my God, does anyone else do this? Feel free to hit up the chat if this is you. I would just blame everyone and complain. Like, they did this, you do this. And I still catch myself sometimes. But instead of blaming them, we can have compassion for them because they had no limits on their behavior with us, right? So or we have in some way trained them that it was okay to do that to us. But no one can do anything to us that we don't allow. That's just the bottom line. So what are those situations for you? This is what I want you to write down. I have some specific questions, and I want you to write these questions down if you're taking notes. Again, this will be recorded, so you can come back to it if you can't do it right now. And I'd love to invite you to really take some time with this beyond this call with yourself and write it down in your journal and just be with yourself with these questions and look for different situations and scenarios for these questions. So bring these questions into family situations, bring these questions into work situations, into your significant other situations. So different scenarios. And just look for those ways where you felt, like I said before, fooled, manipulated, resentful, hurt, all that. So the questions to ask yourself when you felt that way are, what did they seemingly take away from you? I'll give you a moment to write each one down. So what did they seemingly take away from you? Then you want to ask, what did you feel like you lost? And then how important is that for you to keep or for you to have? And then you want to ask yourself if you see your top values here at this point, the things that you value most. Do you see them here, present in this situation, or do you see them missing? What values may be missing is what I'm saying. And then what is the feeling that you wanted to have instead? Finally, the last question is, what do you need from that person or in general with the situation. So by really clarifying all of this, again, in different situations, you're easing your own worry about being too mean or too harsh, or that you'll be too much, or that you won't be received, or that you won't deserve it, right? Because when you realize that a boundary actually goes back to a pure need of yours, it makes it a little more doable, right? It makes things, it kind of calms things down a bit, right? Beautiful. So the next step in how to set boundaries like a queen is managing your energy. So once you identify what you need, and you're coming to the person to set the boundary, the biggest way that you can start setting the boundaries by harnessing the queen archetype is standing confident, firm, calm, and intentional about those things that you hold sacred, and honoring what you need in your energy, so in your being, in other words. It's not all about our words. I think there's a statistic, I should have looked this up, but it's like 80% of communication is nonverbal, something like that. So your energy, your being, your demeanor is very important when you set boundaries. So this is where you can use your physiology and your body language to stay grounded in your approach, no matter what happens. So they may not receive or respect your boundary, but you can still stay grounded in what you need. And you can make sure you're fully set up for success in your own needs before setting boundaries, just as a queen would when arranging such a meeting, right? So if she would set a meeting with someone of her council, she would make sure that she knows her needs and that she shows up in her best energy, in her best way about her, right? And she's going to stay that intentional and calm in that energy, right? If she were to do that. We're not thinking of the red queen here, right? That's a big difference. The red queen would demand and be mean and harsh. So the nice queen. And as soon as you allow yourself, though, to maybe go into that red queen space, as soon as you lose it and maybe allow your trigger to get the best of you, maybe you start arguing or yelling or trying to convince someone that they are wrong. It's just so common. I used to do that all the time. That's when you lose your power. So to get your power back, you have to get back into your body. You have to breathe, and you have to stand tall, and you have to keep your head up, knowing what you want is what you deserve. And again, remember that with a pure boundary comes a win-win solution for all. It's a bit of a radical belief, but I promise you, when you practice this, it's true. With your boundary from pure place, pure need, there is a win-win for all, even if it doesn't seem so in the moment. So remember, when you have identified your needs and values, when you're, you'll be able to show up with confidence, and then you can begin to cultivate respect from the other person simply by your being in this energy. Okay? So the third step out of 4 is stating your needs in the most respectful way, using constructive language. So I call this I statements. And if you've been to therapy, you may be familiar with this, or if you've had a coach. It's just the easiest way to start saying boundaries, I feel like. And this is stating how I just said. This is stating how you feel or what you need in the situation without blaming the other person. And then that allows them to choose to react from a more conscious and loving place. So when we blame someone, I don't know about you, but they're most likely going to get defensive. I would when I'm blamed. So starting with you did this, you did that, it's going to put someone on the defensive, and it's just not a boundary. And when you start with I statements, you're allowing them to see how you're experiencing the situation instead of them feeling like they're wrong. And if they care about you, they will care about how you feel and most likely will want to show up differently. So these are things like, I feel this when this happened, or I'm feeling hurt right now by your words. So they're basically just starting with owning how you feel, right? So it's pretty straightforward. So it's a great way to start. It's a basic tool to just use in life in general, but especially with boundaries. So when things might be a little, like when you're walking on glass, this is a great way to bring it back to you both being on the same level. So again, boundaries don't make the other person wrong for their words or actions, because remember, there was no boundary before. So what they did was not really wrong to them in the moment. So that's why you did this to me is not a boundary. There's actually no blame present in boundary setting. So what do you need? Going back to the step one, just share that in a loving way. You know, I need this, and be the queen and make a request from the other person to meet that need. Right? Allow them to show up. Share with them your experience. Okay, and the fourth and final phase in how to set boundaries like a queen is clarifying consequences. So what that means is, what will be the consequence if they do not respect your boundary? You need to let them know this. So this means, what will you do if they cross the line and don't respect your boundary? Because when we set boundaries as a gracious queen, you have to be willing to take action and not tell someone else to do something. Like, you have to leave. Just like I mentioned before about the gate, or the fence with the gate. You can invite others in, or you can leave yourself. And then it becomes a reversed boundary there, you see? So will you leave, or will you not? What will you do if they don't respect it? This is just your responsibility, and the other person will get this consequence if they don't respect you. They don't get the pleasure of your company if they continue to do wrong when they know what will do right, right? So the consequences are a really crucial part when setting boundaries. And I remember when I was first starting to set boundaries, this was really hard for me because, again, this goes back to being mean. Like, I felt like this is mean to leave the room, or to do any of these consequences that would be present, that I would want to happen. And I felt like they wouldn't like me if I did this. So again, it stems back to knowing your worth, knowing what you deserve, and standing up to be respected, just like a queen would. And think about it, even in her presence, the people just respect her. They bow down to her just by her presence. So how can you harness that energy even in this boundary setting process? Because until you show people that you mean business, they're going to continue taking advantage of you. And they know they're going to get away with it, because they will. So that's just the bottom line. Again, there's a lot of bottom lines in this training, I realized. And then I have this little metaphor relating to the queen archetype. And I was thinking, the castle dungeon exists for a reason. That would be consequence. And the laws are put in place to protect the people. So think of your boundaries as your royal rules for your own queendom, right? So that is the gist of how to set boundaries as a queen. I'm going to share with you some examples real fast, and an opportunity of how you can really cultivate this in your life now. So a general example would be not over-engaging with someone. So again, I'm going to share these things that don't always seem like a boundary. They may not seem like one. So when you don't over-engage with someone, you're protecting yourself. So when do you not over-engage? You might be thinking, don't over-engage with someone who cannot handle or receive the information that you are giving. right? So when we're excited about something, or maybe we're kind of talkers, we're just oversharing, right? But if the other person is either getting defensive, or they're just not understanding, or they're talking back, that's when you know to back off. And this, I was so guilty of this before. I would just fight. I'd be like, no, you have to understand me. I'm not giving up on this. It's not helpful. So think about when you felt yucky, like you did something wrong. That's usually a boundary that you could have set for yourself, and not oversharing, over engaging with that person, where they might have made you feel a little yucky. So where might you be oversharing yourself, which oversteps another's boundary and makes them defensive? So think about that for yourself. And then another boundary could be silence, right? So when there's really nothing else to be said, so this is where you use discernment, like the queen. Silence is very healing. People are going to try to fill the space too. So when you're silent, they might feel obligated to say something, or decide something, or agree to what you're asking for even. So try silence when there's really nothing else to be done. And on that same note, another example of a boundary is distance. So when there's nothing else to do, sometimes space is healing as well. I feel like distance was one of my most powerful boundaries that I set first when I first started setting boundaries, especially with my family, because we could not come to a same level agreement on a lot of things, and there just wasn't anything left to do. And that distance that I set in speaking with them and being with them, where we had a longer time period in between, really helped our relationship. So it's very helpful. Okay, a specific boundary that I was talking to one of my clients about recently, she shared, she is a travel agent. Her company is Celebration Escapes. And she was sharing that some of her clients that don't know her yet ask her to help with travel planning before they hire her. So they ask her pretty much to do a bunch of research for free. And so she realized how she can avoid this. Again, this is after lots of support, lots of coaching, and lots of sisterhood on her part. So she really sought out how to improve this in a great way. So I'm so proud of her. So she says, and again, this is great for any business owner if you want to use this example. Thank you for reaching out to me for professional assistance with your well-deserved vacation. It's clear that you already have done some research on your own and are frustrated with your findings. Would you agree that you need professional assistance to get the best value for your trip? And then upon agreement, that's great. I have an enormous network of resources and can find you a great deal with more value than you can find on your own. And then she goes on to explain how, but do you see how she didn't blame them for taking advantage of her? She simply realized that she had a need and wanted to work a certain way. And so she offered up the process that she's willing to work with. And then they agree to that. So boundaries are also pretty much agreements, if you look at it like that. The other example I got was, and I wrote this down on my little notebook here, was from a fellow coach that I was speaking with about boundaries. She was really impressing me with some of her boundaries that she's been setting in her life and learning how to set. And one of them was also with a client in a session. I feel like these are both business examples, so I apologize if there's no business owners on this call. There is some, I know that. So she was having a hard time with her session times and ending on time, and people kind of going over the time allowed. But she realized what I mentioned before was that she was avoiding her own self, and that there was insecurity present. So she didn't feel like she could stop that. And so she finally found a way to say it, and I just love how simple it is. She just says, we've got 10 minutes now. So she sets a timer, and she's very aware of her time, right? So sometimes it's about opening up the awareness. So I really want to end powerfully here's what we could do, or how would you like to spend these last 10 minutes? So again, so simple, and it just offers up an experience for them to say yes or no to. It gives them a choice, right? So that's awesome. I just love to hear things like that, and those specific definitions of boundaries for people. Oh, and I want to share this one definition, speaking of definitions, that my client made up on her own of boundaries. She says it's a graceful way of getting a conversation back on track, eliminating argument and diffusing a verbal attack. It's reducing confrontation and creating a foundation for real conversation, which it is. So it's beautiful. So that is the gist of the training, and I hope that you really get a good sense of what boundaries are and see where you might be falling short here, right? And again, thinking back to that first precursor to all of this about self-worth and owning our own value and knowing how much the world needs us, and the world needs us to show up in a bigger way. And part of that's with boundaries. I'm going to share with you an opportunity to actually step into this with support. And I'd love for you to feel into your body when I share this with you. Because remember, you want to get into that grounded energy and not go into your head. Because boundaries and personal development in general is not always in the mind. Growth, a lot of it happens in our being, in our heart and soul. So see if you can just tap into that within you for a moment and see if any of this resonates with you. See if you do want to move forward with this way to step into more of your self-worth and experience and learn how to cultivate boundaries in your life. And so what I want to share with you, and I'll share really quickly before we move into the next steps of life coaching one woman and answering any questions you have, is my private coaching programs. And these were all based and shaped on my own experience with everything I shared with you today and my own growth. They're based on feminine power principles for success, which I shared with some of them with you today. And they're not only practical. Of course, I'm a life coach, so I know the tools and techniques, but I'm very magical in my approach. Very spiritual. And spiritual does not have to do with any religion. It's just coming into more of our power as women, more of our core being, and using elements and this world to find our happiness. That's magic to me. And so these all use my energy alignment system that I've created over the past 4 years, and spacious sessions. That's what I like to call them. So that allows for your greatness to emerge. So these two programs, I only have limited spots. The first one is called the Metamorphosis Program, as you can see, and the second one is the VIP Queen's Journey Experience. The Metamorphosis Program is 5 months of private coaching, and that has a focus on helping you transform into your highest potential, to magnify your feminine power and cultivate lasting productivity and success in a way that feels doable, in a way that feels spacious and exciting instead of daunting, because that's what it felt like for me. So I created a program to help you come into that in a expansive way, an exciting way, and bust through the blocks that you have that are keeping you stuck in a way that is so authentic for you, that is so in sync and in flow to who you are. Because again, I've been through this, so I know how to lead you. And this program also helps you move towards your ideal life. And it has one-on-one attention from me, right? This is private coaching using my solid system that has worked for so many people and clients that I've had over the years, giving you the massive momentum to up-level your life in so many ways. So you're getting a lot of experience from me and my clients and all of my journeys in these past 4 years, and really helping you cultivate that life, transform. So for the woman who feels a little bit disconnected to their identity, their purpose, their being, their power, this is going to help you. And so if that resonates, feel into that. And then the last program, VIP Queen's Journey Experience, this is only for one person. I only have one spot for this because this is my premium level of support and attention. This is 6 months, and it also includes, the bulk of this program is the private luxury VIP immersion retreat. That's all inclusive. And this is what will allow you to embody the queen. It's the only way. Again, my experience. So retreat immersion is what will skyrocket your success, skyrocket your life and your being and your expression as a woman, to feel fully integrated with the masculine. That is most likely easy for you, the doing part, and integrate it with the feminine, the being, and create that foundation that's perfect for you. So this is unlimited resources, attention, premium level support, VIP experience, intensive days, and again, those spacious sessions, and 6 months of one-on-one attention. It's a one-in-a-lifetime opportunity and an experience, in my opinion, but I may be biased. So there's only one of those available spots if you're looking for that. And there's only 3 spots of the metamorphosis. So I just wanted to share those quickly with those of you who may need this kind of support. And if you don't, that's perfectly fine. I wanted to share this information with as many women as possible, the boundaries information. So if you feel a resonance with any of that, if you feel like you need this kind of support, reach out to me or stay on after the call and we'll talk about it then. I'll share some more information and answer any questions that you have. Okay? Beautiful. And you can also go to my website and schedule a consultation if that's what you'd rather do. It's michellepowell.me, and you'll see the place to schedule that. So your next steps, no matter what, I want you to go over the 4 phases of these boundary settings. Again, spend some time on this and really get clear on where you're falling short, right? So take the time to really dive into these different scenarios and give yourself this time to explore where you can improve. What is more appealing to you? How can you integrate the queen into your approach now and change your approach? And just see, where you can start creating intention for setting these boundaries in a better, more powerful, more you way. Okay? And then identify a support system. So see where you need support to cultivate that high self-worth that I talked about and that confidence in yourself. And then look for ways that you can receive such support, whether that's your family, your friends, whether that's a sisterhood, whether that's a significant other, or if it's a professional like a coach. But just find someone to support you, or many people to support you, because we cannot do this alone. We cannot go from no self-worth to high self-worth by reading books or attending webinars alone, right? So it takes a village for us to come into our highest potential and become who we're meant to become. So support is just crucial in all of this, in setting boundaries and getting that reflection back to you. And then I want to stay connected with you. That's the 3rd step. So my theme for the year is connection and community. So I would love, if we aren't already, I think I am pretty connected with most of you here already, but if for some reason you are listening to this and we are not connected, I'm really active on Facebook and Instagram as Michelle Powell. So find me on there, hit me up on there, and let's connect that way. And then if you want to stay connected every week, I do offer a weekly newsletter that's all about things that we talked about today, tools and techniques on cultivating your feminine power, living an inspired life, and just being that highest version of yourself. It's obviously for women only. So if you want to join that newsletter list, you can go to my website, michellepowell.me, and at the top you'll see the bar where you can enter your email for that. And you're also going to receive my free gift when you do that. It's amazing. I love it so much. It's called Abundance and Alchemy, and it is all about the feminine power principles, my favorite ones, in order for you to create abundance and how those are related. It's fascinating. So yeah, so stay connected with me, get the support and identify those 4 phases for yourself and just schedule in that time now. Okay? Beautiful. So I think it's time now to coach one woman. So let me stop this screen share now. Yay, I'm on video again. So I am going to unmute everyone. Do. And I'm just allowing the floor to be open. So say something if you would like to be coached right now regarding boundaries or anything we talked about today.
Hi, Michelle. It's Isabel.
Hi, darling.
Hi. Okay, so this is really up for me right now. It could not have been better timing. I struggle with creating boundaries with my husband.
Okay.
And, my love, my favorite person in the whole entire universe, right? And I want his happiness sometimes even more than I want my own.
Yeah.
And yet I find that I become resentful when both of our focuses are on him. And then I get angry and I don't even really know why. But when I drop in to this kind of work, I realize, it's because I haven't set boundaries because I'm not really sure what I really want, but I'm jealous of what he has. So clearly I want what he has.
Mm-hmm. Oh man, honey, I can relate to that so much. I totally was in the same boat. Exactly. Most of my marriage. So I feel you on that, just so you know. So also, what does it feel like he has? You said...
Well, so what does he have? I'm a stay-at-home mom with my 2 kids. So he goes out into the world, and he has adult conversations on a regular basis. He also is exercising regularly. And so he's got some self-care practices in there that I used to have, and I've kind of let them slide away. And so, and he also has time by himself, alone time.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay, beautiful. And I love how you recognized that you felt resentful and then you get angry. You're like, I don't know why I'm angry, right? Anytime there's a resentment issue, it's because there's no boundary.
Yeah.
No boundary. So beautiful. So I'm guessing then you want to be out in the world, having adult conversations, taking care of yourself, and having time by yourself, right?
Yes.
Okay. And what is stopping you from that now? What seems like it's stopping you from that now?
Well, okay. Let's see, one by one. I made a choice to be home with my kids, and it's a purposeful choice. And some of that means actually being home a lot, which I enjoy. I just, they're just not super great conversationalists at this point. And I just I know, right?
You're talking about the baby is not a great conversation.
The baby, I know. Looking up at me right now. And so there's that. Your question was, why don't you have these things?
What seems like it's stopping you from having
what's stopping? Yeah, and I'm going to use them as an excuse again for the alone time.
Mm-hmm.
I find I'm often alone with them and also never really alone.
Mm-hmm. So I heard you just now say, I use that excuse. So it's an excuse.
It feels like a good one though. I don't know how to get around it.
Yeah. And that you made a choice to stay home with your kids. That's what you said as well, right?
Yeah.
And so when you made that choice, was that choice to be all or nothing, to be always home only with your kids and no one else, including yourself?
I hadn't thought of it in that way. Yeah, I hadn't, if that was on the table, I would have said no.
Mm-hmm.
But now that the choice has been made, it, feels like it's hard to say.
Yeah, and this is such a good example, Isabel, because boundaries, they're, like I said earlier, they're basically agreements. And of course, agreements are so much easier to set in the beginning, right? But when we don't
Yeah.
clarify them, that's when they don't really last, or when it's hard to set a boundary. So you had an agreement either with yourself, if it's silent, or with your husband, I'm going to stay home with the kids. And that felt expansive, but it seems to me like that wasn't clear enough.
Yeah.
And so now it's time to reevaluate, right?
Yes.
Yes. And so now you want to get out into the world and have those conversations and self-care. Now, if you found a way to have that, would you take advantage of it?
Yes. I
Okay.
think so. Yes.
You think so?
Yes.
Are you sure? Is that a yes? Yes?
Maybe yes. It's like maybe a 9 out of 10.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm wondering if this, again, since you recognized you made an excuse because you all obviously love your son so much.
Yeah.
You want to put him first because he just needs the best care, of course.
Right.
And I heard you say that it was an excuse. You recognize that. So do you think you deserve to be able to get out into the world and have those conversations and time alone and self-care?
I want to say yes, because a part of me does believe that I deserve it. And I also feel like there is another part of me that doesn't feel so deserving of that.
Yeah, because if there was a strong, deserving feeling, it would have worked through the obstacles to find a way to make it happen, right?
Right.
Yeah. So what would make you feel like you deserve this time, the things that you want?
So that's a really great question. I feel there's something about money in there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not pulling in any money, so I feel like unworthy of then taking that time out.
Totally. I get that.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
What else? There's also a little bit of, I have so many blessings. How can I ask for something else?
Mm-hmm.
When I know a ton of people who don't have what I have and that, they're okay with what they have.
Do you believe that there is a limited stock of blessings?
I don't.
Okay.
I really don't.
So if you were to ask for another blessing in your life, like let's say some quiet time alone, legitimately, does your overall belief say yes to that possibility?
It does, yeah.
And then just now, if the struggle is for you accepting it close to you, really accepting that blessing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
And making it happen. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you had the money, would you still receive that blessing? Would you still make it happen?
Yeah. I think I hope so. I want to say yes.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say yes. It's also around the boundaries around asking for it from my husband. especially when you said clarifying consequences, because when he doesn't give me that time to myself, there aren't any consequences except that I just get resentful and mean and mad. And I'm not very skillful at setting those consequences in a way that, feels good. It is an empowering way.
Totally. And I'm curious, have you asked before for any of these at all?
Specifically, I've asked for quiet time in the morning after the kids have woken up so that I can set my day. And he says yes, he says the right thing, and then doesn't always follow through.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you follow through?
Meaning what?
Do you ask again or make sure? Did you in the past?
Well, have I asked again? I kind of just suck it up and deal with it. And then I do the passive aggressive thing, which I'm not proud of, and I make a lot of, grunting noises and rolling my eyes and things like that. Punish him silently. What I want to do, what my, best, wisest self wants to do is say what I need and keep him to his word. But it's really hard for me because I also want to be kind of super mom. And I almost want to not have needs. I have this vision of a good mom doesn't have needs.
Is that what your mom demonstrated?
Oh, yeah.
Did she suck it up?
She did. Oh man, she sucked it up a lot. Especially my dad was the star, everything was for him. And she just made his life happen too. Yeah.
So do you see that connection then as to what the pattern? Yeah. I'm wondering, so now that you see that and recognize it, can you harness any compassion for yourself, knowing that you've been doing the best you've been doing, and you didn't know better. You only knew how to suck it up.
Yeah.
And treat the male, the husband, as the star and more deserving, and the kid more deserving.
Yes.
How does that feel, just feeling into that compassion for yourself?
It gives me a lot of empathy for my mom. It quiets that voice in me that tells me that I'm doing something wrong, that I'm not good enough. Just that quiet compassion is important. Yeah.
Beautiful. And actually feel into that even more. See if you can deepen into that compassion, right in this moment. See if you can think of those times where you tried to ask or you didn't follow through, that where you didn't ask, where you held your tongue, and where you just rolled your eyes, and just feel into the compassionate side of there was no other way in that moment of getting what you need. And I want to know how that feels.
Oh, feels sad. Makes me feel really sad because I've operated that way, not knowing how to get my needs met for a long time. I feel almost makes me feel like a child, not knowing how to get my needs met, and behaving poorly because I don't know how else to figure out how to get them met.
Yeah. And is that how you got your needs met as a child?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, again, can you have compassion here for that's what you know? That's just what has got you success in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, what compassion does is it's so powerful because it's the first neutral vibration. So there's something called the vortex of energy, where there's negative vibrations such as fear, hate, worry, doubt, all of that. And then it begins to become positive vibrations. And compassion is that first neutral or positive vibration. So when we access that compassion, again, from knowing that everyone is making the best choice for themselves in the moment, bring ourselves out of the negative field and into the positive field and into more of the deserving field, where the possibilities are greater, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I asked, how does it feel to harness compassion and remember that you've just been doing the best you can with what you know, what you have. And it seems like you want to take a different approach.
I do.
Yeah. And so what feels like it would be most expansive and empowering for you to take that approach in order to get, let's just start with quiet time.
I don't know. I don't know.
And it may not be, an asking situation. Is there something that you can do with your own self that may be the first step before you ask your husband or create some sort of situation in order to receive the quiet time or know you deserve the quiet time or start to move towards that in some way as a new approach?
Yeah. Maybe I can actually schedule it, because my husband and I have a shared calendar. So maybe actually putting it in as if it's an appointment that's set and I can't miss my appointment.
Yeah. So he would see it, you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. So when that comes, say you did that and he agreed, and when that comes, how are you going to uphold that as an approach?
I know. I don't know.
Well, then take a breath. See if you can open up your energy and see if you can access some new information that would be a different approach than you've taken before. So not making an excuse, so not allowing your husband not saying anything to just eliminate the possibility. So not treating it, so, not doing what you've always done.
Yeah.
So what would be a new way that you can think, just a possibility, and you may not have ever done it before, and that's okay, but something that you can think of that you can do to make this a legitimate commitment and create that boundary for your own self.
I wonder if, like any other appointment, if I can't keep my appointment, then I have to reschedule. So then make sure it stays on there, even if it has to change time. Because sometimes he legitimately has to go to work early and can't. That kind of thing.
Well, the other thing you can do is, since you recognize that you want to schedule it and make it so that he feels like he's respected, that feels like it's important to you, right? That he's respected in that. You can simply find solutions for possible objections. So what if he did have to work early at that time? Yeah. Would rescheduling work for you, or would that still make you feel a little resentful?
It would work for me, because embedded in the rescheduling is a respect of my time and my needs.
Okay.
And so it wouldn't feel super great, but it would feel, but the respect is what the lack of respect is what triggers like negative feelings in me.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So that's really great to recognize too, because again, we can plan for that. So whenever you feel like a lack of respect, what could be a new approach you take? So say he ends up not respecting that appointment, and say he doesn't talk about rescheduling it or just doesn't respect you. So then what would be your approach then? See, because it's harder in the moment because you're gonna choose what you've always chosen.
Yeah.
If we don't think of it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I'm having trouble seeing any other way.
Right. Okay. Do you know what you would tell a friend if they felt like their husbands were disrespecting them?
Mm-hmm. Oh, what would I tell a friend?
She says, he's disrespecting me again. I wanted to go out to do my own thing, and that he agreed to, but then he went back on that agreement and just totally disregarded my feelings, and I just feel so hurt and disrespected. I don't know what to do.
First of all, I would hear them. I would respect them by hearing them. Mm-hmm. And what else would I tell them? I think I would try and reflect back to them that, their deservingness of respect. Mm-hmm. It's a really good question.
What would you actually say about specifically like that? How would you tell them that they deserve it?
I would say, I would tell them you deserve respect, not because of who, what you do or what, just because you're a human being and you deserve respect because you are here and,
So Isabel, I have something to share with you.
Okay.
You deserve respect, not only because of what you do, but because you're a human being and you're here.
Yeah.
Could that be the new approach? If you share it with yourself. Yeah. How does that feel?
That feels good because ultimately, I see myself projecting some lack of respect for myself onto him, but I really need to respect my own needs also.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That seems like a good first step.
Yeah.
Can you imagine what would be possible after you've done that? Like, does that feel like what space are you in after you do that, after you say that to yourself?
I feel stronger and also softer at the same time.
Oh, I love it. Yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Ben has something to say about that too.
Right, exactly. Amen, Mama.
So how does the situation feel now that you've got that clarity about that you may be projecting some of these feelings that you're feeling towards him about yourself?
I feel a softness about it. I don't feel so much rigidity for some reason around it.
Yeah. So does it feel like that fence that I shared instead of the wall?
Yeah. Yes. Oh, I love that.
Yes.
I love that.
So now you're in your feminine power from that place. So that softness is part of your power. That softness is what inspires the masculine. I'm not talking about specifically gender. I'm talking about the energy. So it could be, if everyone's listening to this, it's not about man and woman. It's just a masculine and feminine energy working, just to clarify that. Yeah, so that softness is what's going to allow you to like morph and be able to be open to a new way, to be able to flow, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like a ripple effect, ripple softness, opening you up to a new way of being, sounds like.
Yeah.
And then that's going to help you. How does that feel? Does that feel right? That it's going to be a new way, a new approach that's successful?
Yeah. I don't feel so scared.
Good. Yes. I love that. That was such a good realization. You're so good at clarifying. I love that about you. You are always really clear.
Thank you.
Yeah. Beautiful. So how do you feel about this situation right now? Does it feel more doable? Does it feel more clear? How do you feel?
Asking for time from him?
Yeah, or just in general, the boundaries with your husband.
Boundaries.
Yes, asking for time and coming at boundaries now with what you know and who you can now be.
Yeah, I feel like being aware of boundaries makes it easier to set them and keep them. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Do you feel like you need any more support around this specific scenario?
I feel complete.
Okay.
Around it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for sharing, honey. I feel
okay, you can't hear me in the background, but I've been listening.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Oh, yeah, good. Yeah, I was going to say, it was a really good example that was helpful for a lot of people, even if they have kids or not. I know Lauren, who just shared, she doesn't have kids. And even me, I'm thinking of my own self as we were talking. It's just so helpful to realize these pieces that hold us back, from what we want. And oftentimes we're blinded. We either have the wall up, and so we can't connect. And so that's when we get rigid and hard and passive aggressive. This is just natural, building, I don't know what the word is, natural progressions. So it's beautiful. I love how you came into that softness, Isabel. And it's so powerful. We often think that this world, we have to be so hard and we have to suck it up as we're taught to, but that is not how to get what we want. So it was a beautiful example of how things can open up when we actually soften and when we give ourselves the compassion that we need. And knowing too that we are just little children still looking for that love. And so when we give it to ourselves, when we remember that we do have a little girl in us that just wants to be loved and played with and cared for, it helps us understand others, understand ourselves, and really ask for what we need, because it allows us to soften, or it allows us to come back into our truth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, let me know if anything pops up around that specific situation. Let me know, and we can chat about that, honey.
Yes, I'll keep you updated.
Yes, I would love that. So thank you again for sharing, for everyone to listen. So grateful for that. I think it was so beautiful. So that is it. So thank you again, everyone, for being here live and listening. For those listening to the recording, I loved your energy. I really could feel everyone's energy here on the call today, even though I can't see any of you. I really do feel you. And so I love you being here. I'm so glad you're here for you, and keep showing up for yourself, right? So keep exploring what you need to and practicing. It never ends, but we can always deepen into these experiences, especially with boundaries and coming into who we are as women, because our magnificence and our being is our value, our soul. We're here. Like Isabel said, I love it. You are here. Because you are here, you deserve it. Oh, that was good. Good job, Isabel. Because you are here, you deserve it. So I would love to know what everyone found most valuable from today. If you want to share with me now, that's great. If not, you can email me at michelle.powell@me.com, or on social media, you can tag me. I would just love to know what you felt about this call. My goal is to share this information and to help your life expand and your being and expression to emerge. That's my goal. So I'm holding all of you in the highest light, and I'm hoping that you all serve the world with your being. I know the value of your soul because I can see it. So much love to you. So I'm going to stay on a little longer if anyone has questions to talk about any of what we talked about today. Otherwise, I will speak with you all later. Thank you again. Mwah.